Okay, up next, I would like to introduce our featured speakers today. If you've had enough breakfast and are ready. Valentina, Maggie, go ahead. I think you'd like to make the introduction.
That's correct, I would. Thank you. So I want to introduce our three speakers who are students at HSU or Cal Poly, and they have done an amazing job with the work they're doing, and it is so incredibly important. I've met with them, and we had Valentina come and speak to our staff, and I'm just really impressed by their dedication and their talent and their passion for this project. And I felt like it was a really important thing for our club to be able to see and hear from these amazing young people. So I will turn it back over to them, and I just want to tell them how much I really appreciate their work. Thank you.
Yes, I should say good morning and hi, Maggie. I know it's good to see you over Zoom again. And very quickly, I think the first thing that I'd like to get off my chest, I'm glad that you noticed our passion, and that's the one thing that has kept, I think, all of us going throughout this whole project, which started in 2020. As with anything that we do or that you guys do, follow that passion, because it'll take you like really far. It took us way farther than any of us thought we would go. Yeah. So I'm Valentina. I'm executive producer, and sometimes I'm the person holding the camera. This is Skylar. She's the editor who put together the first episode, which I think some of you may have seen or viewed. And then Gabe is the director, and he's the one with the crazy idea in the beginning who said, hey, you want to do a doc? And we were like, okay, sure. We've never done anything like this before, but let's do it. So yeah, that's us. And homeless in Humboldt, these people matter. Just I guess one of the main goals is to humanize our homeless neighbors. So often do we walk past them and maybe not have the sense or question whether, like, man, I wonder who that person was before the situation that they got put in. So I hope the project kind of inspires people to question that a little bit more often.
Yeah, so I think it'd be cool to talk about how it all gets started. Yeah, so there's a project, I believe it's still ongoing. It's in collaboration with the Cal Poly Humboldt, I should say, library. It's called Humboldt in the Time of COVID-19 Archive Project. And what it is so I guess you guys know how 100 years ago there was a, there was the Spanish flu of 1918. And we have been looking back 100 years, later in like around the same time, and looking back at how people were surviving during that time in like the 1915 through 1920 era. The idea was that there would be an archive collection of photos, videos, art projects, you name it, things to show how Humboldt was living in the time of COVID, so that researchers 100 years in the future to look back at how we are surviving now, just like how we are doing with the Spanish flu, if that makes sense. So, so we originally set out to look at how Humboldt, or how homelessness and COVID kind of went hand in hand. And while we did find some correlation there, there wasn't enough to really like make a full-on project about it. So, but we did go out in the community, and we did do the rounds, and we did talk to people. We went to like different homeless encampments, and we talked to people. We asked them, like, what do you think about how COVID may be affecting homelessness? And one of the things that we heard from them is that they said, well, COVID is one of the last things that is on our minds when you consider everything else, like where to sleep at night, where they're going to get their food, whether they're going to stay safe, or all these other things, physically, that is. And so, but now it's kind of shifted more toward just looking at homelessness in general in Humboldt. And my 2 cents, I know Valentina shared what she thinks, and what I think about this whole, homelessness situation in Humboldt is I know Humboldt is known for a few things, the weed industry, obviously, but also homelessness. I hear people outside of Humboldt County saying, oh, aren't there like a lot of homeless people in Humboldt? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I think, one of the phrases you guys probably saw in one of the first slides is these people matter. I really want to emphasize that because I really feel like what makes, we've been asked this before, what makes Humboldt County special when it comes to the homelessness situation? Well, I mean, I think that these people, I can't speak for other areas around the country, but I can certainly speak for Humboldt County. I've been here myself since August of 2017 when I came up here to college. But I feel like that these people really matter. These people have formed a community. It's really amazing some of the stuff that we've seen them say, the kind words that they've talked about each other, and they really support each other. But I also think that there's a lack of resources up here, especially when it comes to healthcare. And we were going to address that in a later slide. In fact, we're doing an episode on a couple named Angela and William who have health problems. And so one of the things we've been looking at is the intersectionality of healthcare and homelessness in Humboldt County. And as you guys, many of you are well aware of, there is a healthcare crisis in Humboldt County. There is a major shortage of healthcare practitioners. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what I think about this whole project. So.
Yeah, I would say this project has really changed a lot of, not perspectives for me. Growing up in San Diego, I've seen homelessness all around me, and coming up here, it was not a different story. And I think that doing this project and really seeing how, these individuals live, how they survive, has really shown me a new world. And editing the video, you just want to show these people's story. Like we said, we were in the beginning thinking about doing COVID and homelessness as in the same correlation, but actually listening to them, you really get, you want to show their story and not just have to force COVID as a problem in their life, because for the most part, that's not what they're dealing with. So really editing the video, you just want to show their story and have that known. So, yeah.
And going off of what Skylar said, one of the things is that we've really tried to tell these people's stories carefully. We want to tell them in the way that they would want them to be told.
Yeah.
We don't want to exploit them. We don't want to do this or that. We really want to, like I said, tell their stories very carefully, and we want to be very mindful. Because a lot of these people are dealing with, very sensitive. This is a very sensitive topic, as you guys know. And so a lot of these people are, escaping domestic abuse and other things like that. So should we need to, blur out whatever, we sometimes do that. But yeah, so one of the things that we really want to emphasize is that we really like to approach this in a very delicate way. We're not just going out there and just mindlessly doing stuff. We really want to approach this cautiously.
Yeah, and I can't be, we can't be any more grateful for them, because they have really it's really hard to have a camera shoved in your face every day. And I am just extremely grateful that these individuals that we have talked to have given us a year of their life and wanted to show us that. So, yeah.
And if you see episode 1, which is the episode you guys watched, that's out now. Part 2 is coming soon. We're working on it.
Everyone looks at the editor.
It takes a while.
It really does. We underestimated the amount of time it takes to really put a story like this together, especially since you want to approach the storytelling so carefully and very thoughtfully. Every soundbite, every sentence, every shot, it's it's carefully put together.
Yeah.
And we had to like totally like redo the story several times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like Valentina said, it's a process for sure.
That's when that passion kind of kicks in,
Yeah.
in those long editing hour moments. And as you can see, episode 2, that'll be out as well. I think it's important to kind of note, episode 2 focuses more on the relationship between our healthcare systems in this county and how it impacts homeless individuals, but even non-homeless individuals. They just feel the brunt of it first, and then, it's gonna come down to us. I'm sure most of us have already experienced really difficult like healthcare issues or trying to find a provider, things like that. So I think if I continue, I might be rambling a little bit. I think that's about it.
Yeah, so episode 2 will be focused more on the healthcare side of things in Humboldt, and then from episode 1 with JP, for you guys that have seen it, there was a part 1 in that title. So part 2 of his story is continuing on. And though we did talk about drugs a little bit in the first episode, the second part is going to really go down to the actual, what are, who are drug addicts, why are they, and really just delve into like why people are doing drugs, because it is such a stressful situation to be in, and there's no really other escape except that. And so we kind of go more into depth about that. So.
Yeah, and yeah, so like Skylar was saying, episode 2 is about the intersectionality of healthcare and homelessness. But the couple you see, if you guys are wondering who that is on screen, their names are Angela and William Dixon. They are in their mid to late 50s, and they are a retired disabled couple. Due to various accidents, they have become disabled, and they have been living out of their truck, as you guys can see in the left-hand most side of the screen. And it's not that they've just been living out of their truck. They literally have to sleep and live like upright because they can't put the seats back because there's so much stuff in their truck. And it's just really unfortunate and really sad to see, because that obviously messes with like blood flow circulation in their legs. So kind of going back to what Valentina and Skylar were talking about, just how much it can mess you up living that way when it comes to health, physical health, and also not to mention mental health, but mostly physical health. And so their episode will be coming out in a few months or so. But that episode is I'm very much looking forward to it, as with all the episodes, but this one definitely for sure, because these people, they're like, they give us like a completely different perspective on homelessness, I would say. Like, while JP is very, he kind of just like accepts it, like Angela and William, they're very lighthearted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting seeing these differing attitudes toward the situation. So yeah.
Would you like to field some questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Could you tell us what your individual field of study was before you started this project, and has this altered your course?
Absolutely. So I actually started out as a film major at Cal Poly Humboldt, but I became a journalism major a couple of years into my college career, because I realized that I feel like journalism was more my calling. So I graduated with a degree in journalism, or I will graduate with a degree in journalism, and I feel that it has impacted my work, because it is really, I feel like, it all comes down to storytelling, because, one of the things that we've echoed a lot throughout our project is that, this presentation is that, not only do these people matter, but we want to tell their stories, and we want to tell it in it's kind of in a journalistic way, but, I think that is Also, I guess I should say also with the fact that that I do have some background in film, that has allowed me to kind of look at it from a film perspective as well as a journalism perspective. So having those two marry, really allows me to look at it from varying perspectives, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I started off as an environmental studies major, also switched to journalism because it was my calling, I guess. But I remember taking my first video production class, and I remember that was the only thing that I ever wanted to do. I love video editing. I love really sharing people's stories through video. It is a totally different way of storytelling. You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. So as soon as I got on this project, I realized that I wanted to be a video editor once I graduate. So that is my path.
And I already graduated from Cal Poly Humboldt. I graduated in December. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies and a minor in journalism. I met these guys in my video production class, and it was the only class where I found, I was being taught a skill that I could use and across many different fields, whether that be like social justice issues for advocacy and nonprofits, or newspapers, anything like that. It just seemed like a practical thing to follow. And I'm a social butterfly. The project allows me to get out, talk to people, hear their stories. I'm a big storyteller. I'm a big fan of having stories told to me in a way that it's, animated, humorous, funny, or maybe sad, or melancholy. I enjoy the art of it. And I'm a videographer on the side, and maybe product photographer as well. I guess the project has inspired me to continue my course in media production, content creation, mostly for social justice issues.
Yeah.
That's where I'd like to keep my content creation.
I just want to say thank you for altering the way I view this situation.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'll say that I know Rachel isn't here, but Rachel also, who wasn't able to be with us today, she will be graduating with a degree in journalism, and I'm sure she would have said very similar things to what we've all said, but in terms of her question. But I would say that I really appreciated working with these people, and it's been an incredible experience. Not only working with our subject matter, but also working as a crew. I think we work really well together as a crew, and I look forward to continuing to work with them.
Yeah, I always tell these guys, I'm like, teamwork makes the dream work, okay? Like, you better stick with me and I'll stick with you. Like, that's the only way we're gonna continue on. As I'm sure most of you guys know, it's you'll go the distance with good people beside you. So that's been important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to speak really loud so the people are online. I have a couple, I'm gonna echo what Bob said, which is, thank you for doing this. This is really, really powerful. I watched that first episode with JP and Caity, and it was amazing. It really was amazing. I have two questions. One is, you kind of alluded to how long it takes to produce each episode. So I'd like to know that, but I would also like to know how many episodes do you plan to produce? Is this going to be an ongoing thing? Is it going to be something that outlives your college career?
Gotcha. So as the editor, as far as the process of the whole thing and filming, well, filming is one thing. Filming is probably, like we said, like a year of filming.
Year and a half, probably.
Yeah, a year and a half of filming. Like, we want to make sure that we are getting every possible thing that these individuals want to get out. So that does take time. It also takes time to, set up a day to interview them or go out and talk with them. Sometimes, plans change and we aren't able to see them that day. So we just reschedule. And so it's just like, we have to really, take time to understand that they don't have a certain schedule. It's really up in the air. So we have to understand that. Filming is also another thing, about 1.5 years of filming to make sure that we got everything. And then editing, editing can probably take at least about a couple of months, really. You know, and more of a, you know, we are, I guess, semi-professional group. In a more professional setting, I'm sure video editing, people would probably want their video done with like in a week or 2. But you know, sometimes we don't have all of the content that we want. So speaking with the last episode, we were in the editing process, but as we were editing, we realized, oh, there's a hole here. We need to go back and talk to JP and talk to him again and see what he meant by this. So it really just depends. I think the first episode took like, goodness, we released it in December and we started in,
It took several months.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes several months to really get everything. Yeah.
You're also taking classes?
Yes. 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 Also full time. Yeah. Sometimes part-time jobs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple more questions.
Good. This is a two-parter. One, what is the sort of preconceived notion that you had going in that changed the result? And is there a theme that you're seeing running among all the folks you talk to in terms of how they got to where they are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean preconceived notion? Like,
Well, you went in with certain expectations about what you would find. I mean, yeah.
oh my goodness.
What
Man.
did you learn?
Yeah.
Personally, I came into the project pretty naively. I think that allowed me to not have an expectation for what I would find.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, a little bit of like impulsiveness, and I came into the project kind of naively, but I feel like that helped me continue on and just continue to ask questions, continue to try to find in somebody that would stick with us and, you know, should be open enough to tell someone who told their story well, that would come off on camera and be able, it'll resonate with the audience. I like I said earlier, we kind of fell down a rabbit hole. That's kind of what it felt like. I was like Alice in Wonderland. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And it turned out to be one of the best things I'd ever done. I was uninspired by some of my classes on campus. So when Gabe came to me with this project, I was just like, you know what? I need to do something different. Yes, let's do it. I will help you. Let's do it. So, and then your second question was,
Is there consistency among the folks that you interviewed, you know,
Yeah.
and how they got to the situation?
Well,
each individual gets into the situation that they're in differently.
Yeah.
Whether that be that they had an accident, they became disabled and they lost their job and the timing just was terribly perfect and they found themselves in a homeless situation. There's that. On the other hand, there are individuals we've met that in childhood, they've experienced domestic abuse, sexual violence. Maybe they lived in poverty and they had to work multiple jobs and drop out of high school and they just kind of never found themselves in a stable career field or amongst a group of people who maybe could inspire them on a different path. Each situation is different.
Yeah.
I would say that I think that to answer your question, like common theme, I think that people are trying, like they're trying to improve their lives, whether it's to a big degree or a small degree, they're trying nonetheless.
They survived.
They're
Yeah.
surviving. Yeah. You know, as you saw with JP, he is, you know, he does, as you saw, he does do drugs and while he is in his predicament, and I don't know if any of you remember this specific line, he was saying like, I kind of like brought myself into this situation. He's trying to improve. Whereas with Angela William, they're trying a lot more, and that's what, and it's inspiring nonetheless to see people trying, but Angela William has a lot more drive, I would say, than JP, unless.
It's a different
Yeah,
set
it's
of
a different-
battles.
yeah,
It's different
set of
It really
battles,
is.
yeah.
And it all begins with how they ended up there, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Right, because it sounds like they went through a relatively normal existence. and
Yeah.
ended up where they are.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I can say for JP, and a lot of these individuals that we've seen, because we've also made it to Garberville, and I remember seeing that one guy that built himself a whole house with a stove in the forest.
And insulation.
Yeah, with
it's amazing.
insulation.
It's amazing.
Like he just built that by himself. Like with JP, with a lot of individuals that we have talked to, because JP, Angela, and Will, you know, these are only 2 sets of people that we have talked to, but like in the span of a year, but we have gone out and talked to other homeless individuals while getting B-roll, just asking around, and they have like stories to tell us. Like they see the camera, they're just like, oh, like I'll tell you something. Like, you know, it's kind of hit or miss with that. You either get like, oh, go away, or like, yeah, I'll talk to you. But what you can really see with these, like all these individuals, is that they are creative, they're builders. They really have like, they're intelligent, they really have a lot to show. And like people just don't realize that because, oh, they don't have a home, they're not working, they should get jobs. And they don't realize that it is a vicious cycle. We will touch up on part 2 of JP's episode, that sober living, how people get into that, how difficult it is to get into that, especially with Humboldt having not so many resources.
And how
for that.
easy it is for someone who's battling drug addiction to get kicked out if they slip up just once.
Yeah.
No other population in our society do we do that, where living is contingent on your sobriety. Imagine, we did an interview, and you'll see it in maybe part 2, but could you imagine a doctor telling a diabetic, oh, you just had sugar, I can't treat you?
Yeah.
You know, we don't do that. We would think that doctor's insane.
Yeah.
But for many inpatient drug rehabilitation centers, so often is it the model that, okay, we will house you and help you. If you mess up once, you're out. You know, that is not a model that is, it doesn't work. You're not there to help that person long term. It's an impossible standard expectation to place on someone who's battling drug addiction and has been battling drug addiction for like 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, so
And I wanted to address, I believe, your question about like how long, like what our future plans are. I can speak for myself. I certainly, as the director, would like to. I mean, obviously, we're going to finish out these few episodes, but I am very interested in doing an episode on the indigenous communities in Humboldt, more specifically the Native Americans in Hoopa, or in on We Outland, or wherever just around Humboldt. I think getting that different perspective would be very interesting, and I would be very interested in doing an episode on that. And it's not to say that we haven't talked to them before. We actually went out to Hoopa, the reservation, and we talked to some people there. So that would be certainly one episode I would be very interested in. And if we have more ideas in the line, then great. But certainly that episode, and as like Skylar and Valentina mentioned, episodes take a while to produce. So that would certainly be an episode I'd be very interested in doing.
All 3 of you, thank you so much for presenting. It's very clear to any of us who watched this first episode that your interests and your skills and your learned talents are definitely aiding in the telling of these important stories, and it really connected. It's a visual, audio story that it hits, and it's important. So thank you.
And can we mention the website, please?
Please do. And I apologize, everybody, if you don't mind staying on. I know it's 8 o'clock. We've got one more thing to do. And some stories, you spent 1.5 years or more just telling this one 15-minute story. You can't rush some things, so thank you for hanging out a little longer. Yes, please mention the website.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite tall enough to do that switch at the moment.
No, it's okay. So, so we do have a website containing all the information related to our documentary, including files about us and more. That if any of you guys want to take note of it, I don't know if you could send out like the link to everybody.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Is it linked in your YouTube video?
it is linked.
Because we all have links to your YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah, it's if you saw homelessinhumboldt.wordpress.com, that is the website. Okay. So that will, yeah, that's it.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
We will be making a donation in your name to, or names to the Wheelchair Foundation that provides wheelchair access to people that could not otherwise afford it. So thank you for speaking today. We appreciate your time.